Hello everyone, thank you for waiting. We will now begin the JICA International Symposium commemorating the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. My name is Takwa from the Southeast Asia and Pacific Department of JICA, and I will be the MC for today's symposium. Thank you.
Symposium commemorating the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation.
Once again, this year marks the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. This symposium, under the theme of building a new partnership between ASEAN and Japan, is intended to provide all of us with the opportunity to reflect on the wide-ranging relations between the Southeast Asian region and Japan, and to think about the role that JICA and development cooperation should play in light of the future of Japan and the region in the next 50 years. The opening session will feature opening remarks by JICA Senior Vice President Mr. Hataida, a video message from Secretary General of ASEAN, His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Hourn, and keynote speech by JICA President Dr. Tanaka. The first half of the first panel session will feature a panel discussion by the speakers on the theme of past 50 years, next 50 years. In the second panel session, Professor Mine, Executive Director of JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute for Peace and Development, will give a presentation followed by a panel discussion and Q&A session on the theme of Vision from 2073. The session is scheduled to end around 5:30 p.m. with a 10-minute break between the first and second halves. I would now like to move on to the opening session. Mr. Mikio Hataeda, Senior Vice President of JICA, will give opening remarks.
First of all, I'd like to invite Mr. Mikio Hataeda, Senior Vice President of JICA, to give us the opening remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First, I would like to thank you, all of you, for joining us today to commemorate the 50th anniversary of friendship and cooperation between Japan and ASEAN. We are very honored to receive so many people from all walks of life, including our partner countries, private corporations, public organizations, NGOs, universities, and the press. The year 2023 is a milestone that marks the 50th anniversary of the commencement of dialogues between Japan and ASEAN in 1973. Taking this opportunity, we, JICA, would like to look back on our operations in Southeast Asia over the last 50 years and discuss the way forward to the next 50 years. What is the value created by JICA's operation in ASEAN countries during the past 50 years? What will people in Japan and ASEAN countries in 2073, 50 years from now, make of what JICA would have done during the 50 years from 2023? I believe such macroscopic discussions that are expected today will give valuable suggestions to both JICA and ASEAN countries. Without the help of many people, today's symposium would not have been realized. I thank Dr. Kao Kim Hourn, Secretary General of ASEAN, for sending a video message, and I thank all experts who readily accepted our request to speak at this symposium, some coming all the way from Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. I hope this symposium will be a good opportunity for every participant, especially for those in the younger generations, to think about how we in Japan and Southeast Asia can work together to create a brighter future. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。続きまして、
Thank you.
キムホン
Next is a video message from His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Hourn, Secretary General of ASEAN.
いただきます。
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to address the International Symposium commemorating the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation via pre-recorded message. I would like to commend the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, for convening this timely event as we commemorate the Golden Jubilee of ASEAN-Japan relations this year. I encourage such meaningful events as an excellent opportunity for officials and experts and other stakeholders from both ASEAN and Japan to exchange ideas and views on ways to further strengthen and deepen ASEAN-Japan dialogue relations. Indeed, since the initiation of the ASEAN-Japan Informal Dialogue Partnership in 1973 and its subsequent formalization in 1977, when the Fukuoka Doctrine steered Japan's foreign policy approach towards building a heart-to-heart relationship with the ASEAN region based on equal partnership, the friendly and robust ties between both sides have evolved and led to many significant achievements. Over the past 50 years, we have developed a deep and abiding friendship based on shared values, mutual respect, and a commitment to cooperation for peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. Today, ASEAN-Japan relations have grown to be one of the most dynamic and substantive partnerships in the region. Our cooperation has expanded steadfastly, covering a wide range of areas across the three ASEAN pillars of political security, economic, and social cultural cooperation. Japan has extended strong support for the ASEAN centrality, including through its active participation in ASEAN mechanisms, as well as continuously contributed to the ASEAN community building and ASEAN integration process. The accomplishments of the past 5 decades have laid a strong foundation for further advancing ASEAN-Japan relations. In this regard, the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of dialogue relations this year provides a good opportunity for both sides to take stock of our past achievements as well as to reflect on the future directions as we look to drive the relationship forward. To mark this historic milestone, the leaders agree at the 26th ASEAN-Japan Summit meeting in September 2023 to establish an ASEAN-Japan Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, CSP, that is substantive, meaningful, and mutually beneficial to further advance the long-standing partnership and contribution to regional peace, stability, and prosperity. The two sides also reaffirmed the commitment to concretely enhancing cooperation in the key areas of the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, or AOIP, with a view to supporting the advancement of the ASEAN-Japan Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. We are now preparing for the successful convening of the Commemorative Summit to be held in Tokyo in December, as well as its substantive deliverables, including the adoption of a vision statement and new implementation plan to map out the direction to further strengthen ASEAN-Japan relations in the decades to come. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the future of the ASEAN-Japan partnership remains bright and full of potentials and opportunities. Indeed, Japan is a solid friend, a good neighbor, and a long-term partner of ASEAN. As we look forward to further strengthening cooperation with Japan, I would encourage our two sides to work closely together in areas such as trade and investment, tourism, disaster management, digitalization and technological innovation, people-to-people exchange, and cultural exchanges, as well as in the key areas of the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, such as maritime cooperation and sustainable development. In this regard, we appreciate JICA's leading role in providing technical support to ASEAN and the ASEAN member states in a wide range of areas. We also welcome more initiatives from JICA, including through the implementation of programs and projects under the framework of the ASEAN-Japan Technical Cooperation Agreement. I am confident that JICA's efforts would help contribute in ensuring that ASEAN-Japan partnership will continue to grow stronger in the years to come. Together we can work toward a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable future for the wider region. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation, I hope your discussions today would bear more fruits, more activities, and more initiatives that would enable us to foster stronger relations between our two sides. I wish you all a productive symposium and look forward to hearing how we can realize a more resilient ASEAN-Japan partnership that promotes greater peace, stability, and prosperity in the region and the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite JICA President Dr. Akihiko Tanaka to give us the keynote speech.
JICA President for his keynote speech.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to have some remarks at the beginning of today's symposium. As the title of the symposium indicated, 2023 is a milestone year that marks the 50th anniversary of friendship and cooperation between Japan and ASEAN. It is an important year in which we reflect on the past 50 years and consider what we should do for future generations to ensure peace and prosperity in Japan and ASEAN for the next 50 years. This symposium provides, I think, a perfect opportunity for reflection. I would like to, first of all, to express my appreciation to Dr. Kao Kim Hourn, Secretary General of ASEAN, and all the experts who accepted an invitation to take part in the panel discussions today. Prior to this panel discussion, I would like to provide some background information by looking back on the relationships between ASEAN and Japan and JICA over the past 50 years, and talk a bit about changes in the circumstances that surround Japan and ASEAN. And also I would like to touch upon the direction JICA aims to head in when building new relationship with ASEAN. As many of you know, ASEAN was initially established in 1967 as a consultative body of 5 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Japan-ASEAN relations began in 1973 when the two parties resolved the friction over the export of synthetic rubber by Japan through ministerial meetings. So it is interesting that ASEAN-Japan relations started with the troubleshooting. And then also, it may be worthwhile to remember that ASEAN-Japan relations in the early 1970s was not so happy one. In 1974, Japanese Prime Minister Tanaka Akihiko went to Indonesia and Thailand, and he was welcomed by very, very large-scale anti-Japanese demonstrations. There was criticism and anger, even anger, toward Japanese attitude, and mistrust was everywhere in Southeast Asia. So in order to rectify this deplorable situations, I think all parties made their efforts to improve relations. One of the important efforts is that 1977's Prime Minister Takeo Fukuda's speech at Manila, which is later to be labeled as the Fukuda Doctrine speech. And he set up three principles. First, Japan rejects the role of military power. It wouldn't become a military power. Second, Japan will strengthen heart-to-heart relationships of mutual confidence and trust with Southeast Asian countries. And third, Japan will be an equal partner of ASEAN and its member countries. In the subsequent decade, in 1981, when Prime Minister Zenko Suzuki visited ASEAN countries, he proposed that Japan cooperate in establishing ASEAN Human Resources Development Centers. These centers served as Japan's pioneering project to support human resources development and promoted active exchange among people from ASEAN and Japan. They laid the foundation for today's friendly relationships between Japan and ASEAN, I think. Later, Japan-ASEAN relationships underwent major changes following what's called the Plaza Accord of 1985. Backed by a high yen value, Japanese corporations expanded their investments and businesses in Southeast Asian countries. In parallel, the Japanese government cooperated in developing economic and social infrastructure through its ODA, thus contributing to the development of ASEAN countries. In the following, I would like to touch upon some examples of JICA's cooperation in infrastructure and human resources development during this period. Incidentally, I use JICA as the current JICA and its predecessors' organizations. Formerly, JICA, the organization called Japan International Cooperation Agency was established formally in 1974. But I would like to mention many things even before that. And then at the time, 1974, when JICA was established, a major portion of Japan's ODA, concessional loans, yen loan, was handled by an organization called Overseas Economic Cooperation Fund, OECF. But those organizations were combined into one in 2008 to become the current JICA. And so in the following, when I say JICA, it means all the organizations that later to be combined as JICA. Okay? So one of JICA's foremost projects is the Brantas River Basin Development Projects in Indonesia, which began in 1961 and continue even today. The projects use the Japanese ODA to develop multi-purpose dams, irrigation facilities, and other structures in the Brantas River Basin, which had often been damaged by floods. As a result of this project, the Brantas River Basin became a major rice-producing district in Indonesia. And it became the driving force behind the country's achievement of rice self-sufficiency in 1984. Another example is the Eastern Seaboard Development Program in Thailand, which started in 1982. JICA provided comprehensive support from planning to infrastructure development through 16 projects covering the development of ports, railways, water sources, roads, and industrial complexes. The waterfront has since developed into Thailand's second largest economic zone and industrial district after Greater Bangkok area. The automobile industry, including Japanese affiliated businesses, has concentrated there. A third example is an example of human resources development. Typical is the support for what is called the Look East policy advocated by then Malaysian Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir in 1981. Up to now, over 26,000 Malaysian participants have studied in Japan or have taken part in vocational training through programs supported by JICA. About 60% of current Malaysian government officials of vice minister class, I've heard, have participated in some of these training programs. The human connections established through the Look East policy programs are precious assets for relationship between Japan and Malaysia, and between Japan and the larger ASEAN region. As you know, in the early 1990s, the Cold War structure collapsed, signifying a major turning point in contemporary history. In Southeast Asia, the comprehensive Cambodian peace agreement was reached in 1991 to bring peace to Cambodia and the former Indochina region. From 1995 to 1999, 4 countries in the Mekong region, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia, joined ASEAN successively. This developed ASEAN into a regional community that covers the entire Southeast Asian region. In the 1990s, following the Cambodian peace agreement, JICA resumed full-fledged cooperation projects for 3 continental Southeast Asian countries, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. JICA provided cooperation in various infrastructure development projects, and examples include roads, bridges, ports, as typified by the Sihanoukville port in Cambodia, power plants, medical institutions, as exemplified by the Cho Dai Hospital in Vietnam, and urban water supply services in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and Vientiane. In addition, JICA is engaged in intellectual cooperation with countries in the region. One example of such intellectual cooperation was what is called the Ishikawa Project in Vietnam. This project is named after the late Professor Shigeru Ishikawa, Professor Emeritus of Hitotsubashi University, and was participated by many Japanese experts to conduct a joint study of how to formulate economic policy after the era of a communist ruled economy. Well, another example was legal and judicial development cooperation to these countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. This project includes support for the drafting of a civil code and the development of legal professionals. One common characteristic of these intellectual cooperation was joint research, which I believe offers a lot of insight as to the way of cooperation JICA should aim for in the future. In a word, we often use these words nowadays, a co-creation of knowledge through shared dialogue and interaction. JICA also supported peace and stability in the region. In the Philippines, following the ceasefire agreement in Mindanao in 2003, we started substantial peace-building support. In 2008, peace negotiations collapsed for some time. But then JICA President Sadako Ogata strongly urged that JICA should not withdraw. And so we stayed in Mindanao. In 2011, the Japanese government sponsored a then secret summit meeting in Narita between President Aquino of the Philippines and Chairman Murado of Moro Islamic Liberation Front. And this secret meeting was realized because both the government of the Philippines and MILF had strong trust in Japan's reliability. And this meeting led to the signing of a historic comprehensive peace agreement between the two parties in 2014. As JICA's president at that time, I assumed the current position for the first time in 2012. And so this engagement in Mindanao was one of my first missions. And so I had the honor of visiting MILF headquarters and also the honor of witnessing the signing of peace agreement. When I visited Mindanao in January this year, the Parliament of Transitional Authority of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region adopted a resolution to thank JICA for its long-standing cooperation, which was an, I think, extreme honor for us. Since the beginning of the 21st century, economic development in ASEAN countries, as well as the establishment of the ASEAN community and the deepening of its integration, have been really, really remarkable. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, ASEAN countries achieved striking economic growth, more than doubling their nominal GDP over 10 years, and came to be known as growth center of the world. Of course, in 2020, because of the pandemic, ASEAN member states saw negative growth, except for Vietnam. But since then, they have shown vigorous recovery from the recession. Politically, these countries established the ASEAN community. ASEAN countries declared the establishment of the ASEAN community in 2003, and they adopted the ASEAN Charter in 2007. At the end of 2015, ASEAN deepened integration among its member states by launching the ASEAN community, which consisted of the political security community, economic community, and the social-cultural community. Due to the economic development of ASEAN countries, the establishment of the ASEAN community and deepening of integration among its members, and the emergence of ASEAN as an important player in the international community, the relationship between Japan and ASEAN are undergoing considerable changes. ASEAN countries are becoming even more important to Japan, as peace and prosperity in ASEAN leads directly to peace and prosperity in the entire East Asian region, including Japan. JICA will extend its support to strengthen the ASEAN community and the South, its secretariat. Today, when we direct our eyes to the world, we find ourselves in the midst of a series of compound crises. These compound crises involve, in my understanding, 3 layers of crisis. The outermost layer is the physical system, as typified by climate change and natural disasters. Within that outermost layer is what is called the living system, as exemplified by the infectious diseases and ecological disasters. And the innermost layer is the social system, where there are issues of armed conflicts, geopolitics, as well as many economic and social crises. Up to now, traditional international relations studies and international relations policy making conducted only as a matter of social systems. But we lay down the nature of compound crisis. We are now facing a compound crisis, not just from social systems, but the interactions of physical system, living system, and social systems. So unless we take the interaction of social, living, physical system into consideration, we cannot focus on the crux of the issue. I believe that all humankind, including conflicting parties, must work together to build a system of cooperation to address these compound crises. As a social system issues, there may be competition. But if you consider human beings as a whole, we need to tackle challenges coming from the interaction of these physical living and social systems. In this context, Japan has been promoting a new rules-based order from Asia to Africa under the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. In response, ASEAN has developed the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific. Japan will continue to contribute to the development of the Indo-Pacific region together with the ASEAN and its member states, which are located at the center of the Indo-Pacific region. JICA will cooperate with the ASEAN and its members as equal and increasingly more important partners in order to solve global issues. We have already started to collaborate with the ASEAN Secretariat as well as Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and others to address regional, extra-regional, and even global development issues. We will further expand this collaboration in the years to come. One characteristic of JICA's past technical cooperation, including training programs, has been that participants from Japan and ASEAN countries learn each other's strong points and jointly create knowledge through dialogue and interaction. In the future, JICA will further promote this type of interactive and collaborative programs. Moreover, it is necessary to advance cooperation and exchange between Japan and ASEAN countries in a more multi-layered way through various channels in the public and private sectors. Even today, JICA owes much of its activities to the support of our partners in industry, government, and academia. From now on, JICA will consider how we can support each partner's activities that contribute to the development and stability of ASEAN region. We will keep in mind JICA's function as a facilitator for cooperation and exchange activities in the region. Finally, I would like to reflect on the words of the Fukuda Doctrine again. Japan will, according to Mr. Fukuda, Japan would strengthen heart-to-heart relationships of mutual confidence and trust with Southeast Asian countries. And Japan will be an equal partner of ASEAN and its member countries. When the doctrine was announced in 1977, these words meant to us as the guidelines to follow, particularly in the aftermath of processes of mistrust and distrust. Today, however, I may be a bit naive, but I'm convinced by my experiences that these words announced 46 years ago become reality. When I look back on the past 50 years of JICA's cooperation through its financial aid, technical cooperation, and volunteer programs, we aimed at and have achieved is the really people-to-people, heart-to-heart bondage that truly cultivated trust between ASEAN and Japan. That's what Fukuda Doctrine meant to promote. In order to continue to be a reliable and important partner, Japan must continue to learn from developing ASEAN countries and hold in-depth dialogue to advance together. The next 50 years belong to the young generation. I would like to conclude my speech by expressing my hope that through this symposium, you will take home with you the visions and insights for action that will enable people of Japan and ASEAN, including yourself, to work hand in hand to open up a bright future, to face the world together, and to solve global issues. Thank you very much.